All right, so we got my brother Ike up in here. We live. Okay, so Ike, I appreciate you for spending your time to like come on this platform and give your intellectual property. You a inspiring brother. Like I've been following your channel for a while, way before I even started doing content on my own. I don't know if you remember me or not, but remember you though.
Um, when did you start following my channel?
It was a while back. I'm talking about like when Ramil Amir had brought you on his platform.
I see.
Yeah, and you was making content about the meditation way back. And I remember I came in and my internet was kind of off. It was like a little lagging, but you still understood what I was saying. So yeah,
Mm. I definitely see you around in different channels. Your avatar. Um, yeah, that one. I see
yes
you in
sir.
different channels. Um, I don't know if it's, even in the Pan African spaces and stuff like that. Um, yeah. So I've been I know who you are.
Yes sir. All right, well, I appreciate you. I definitely. So this is like your show right here. So pretty much, I know you got an hour and a half to spend, but I definitely want to bring you on the show so you could like tell people about yourself and your upbringing. If you get what I'm saying, like a little brief summary of that.
Well, I was born and raised in Nigeria, West Africa, in Benin City, which is part of the Benin, ancient Benin Kingdom, if you will, to a family of, I'm the last of six, and I moved to United States when I was 17. Now, so which pretty much means that I grew up over there. All my formative years and what have you was spent in Nigeria. So I had that kind of upbringing. There may be questions that arise as to the differences. Not that I grew up in both places and I can compare, but sometimes people have questions about things like that. But I came over here in 2000, in the year 2000, roughly speaking, actually towards the end of 1999, and I lived in New York for a year. Came to California, started going to college, started a community college, as a matter of fact. Did 2 years of that, and then went in to get my bachelor's degree in engineering, got a master's degree in engineering, and started an engineering company after getting some experience and getting my licensure and so on and so forth for a while. Other than that, I'm a musician. I have a band called Soul Rising. We are Soul Rising. I started out doing hip hop in the music thing, but then this particular band, I do more hip hop. No, more dance hall, reggae, if you will, reggae dance hall and stuff like that. And I have a number of other interests, including having a YouTube channel, right? So that in broad strokes is who I am, born and raised in Nigeria, came to the United States, engineer, entrepreneur, musician, and other things.
That's good. I heard some of your music too. That's actually good for real.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I have a question about you. Like, so shouts out. This is Mo Facts up in here. Appreciate you. Hit the like button. Thank you. So was your upbringing kind of like difficult? Like, did you have like habits? Like, did you endure bad habits? That's what I'm trying to say. Like, what inspired you, gave you that spark to like, oh, I want to go ahead and become this and do this.
That is always a tough one to answer because it involves you taking yourself out of your own body and try to imagine, well, how it may be like from other people's point of view. Because there's certain things I'm assuming are shared in terms of, well, we're all human beings, right? That means we all have difficulties. Just simply being alive, being a human being, knowing that you're limited, knowing that you are constrained, you can't be at all places at all times, you can't do all things at all times. And whichever particular path you choose, it's going to be particularly difficult. And, we're all kind of lazy, right? Like when you're born, a baby's pretty lazy, lays there, cries, bitching and moaning about everything. So I had to overcome those kinds of things as well. But I would have to say that I some of the some of the difficulties that I encountered, right, was number one, being different, growing up in Nigeria where everyone is black and I'm the albino, right? So it's like, oh, you look different. And, kids do their thing.
Yeah.
Kids have a way of making you notice certain types of things, right? But you can take that, one could go two ways with those kinds of challenges. You can go the direction of I'm going to be depressed, I'm going to complain, I'm going to always revert back to looking at that as a means of, or as a reason why I either don't like people or can't achieve certain things, and or you can, it can be freeing. In other words, you can kind of see it as, oh, I see what's going on over there and I'm not going to involve myself with that. It's almost like, oh, you guys, it's almost like they show their hand. In other words, the bad sides of the social sphere, if you will, the bad side of people, the bad side of the mob. And like, oh, okay, you guys are showing your hand. That's what you guys are doing over there. Therefore, I'm not going to be fooled by trying to be part of the crowd. And that can be very freeing, right? If the crowd doesn't accept you, again, there are two ways you could go. You can get depressed about it, or you can be like, oh, I got it. I don't have to worry about you guys anymore. You guys are all full of crap, anyways, right? You're playing some weird social game, in group, out group type of stuff. And that is something that I learned a long time ago. And that particular thing, I would say, helped me, to answer your question, helped me and pushed me in the direction of, okay, I'm going to go pursue my ends, do my thing, right?
Okay, so I got another one. Okay, I'm very open and transparent. Like me, like back in my past running the streets, like I had many addictions from the pills, the smoking, powder, all types of crazy stuff, right? So to me, what I think of what addiction is like it could be having 5 cups of coffee a day, it could be doing cocaine, smoking weed, repulsively, all that. So my question to you is, did you have any type of addiction that you had to overcome in your journey?
Yeah, I have a addictive personality because I think that, and I know that sounds like a cliche and stuff like that, but addiction really is about your inability to handle certain crutches. You know what I mean? Because we all use crutches in life. We all have certain things that we need to use in order to get by. You mentioned coffee, for example, just like a low level, simple one, a more one that everybody can understand, or people drinking a glass of wine at night before they go to bed, right? So if you have a certain kind of personality whereby you don't know how to handle your crutches, you got too many crutches, you you like to lean on the crutches too hard, and then it starts to derail other aspects of your life, then that is kind of how I'm looking at addiction. So I would say yes, I am that kind of a person that looks at many different things as crutches, and whether it be uh, smoking or drinking, or now let me put it this way, because of my personality though. So you either you like uppers, and that's the thing that's gonna get you, or you like downers. And then you have some people who are just very unlucky, where it's like they just want everything, right? So I'm more of an introverted person. I like to be cool, I like to be calm, I like to be collected, I like to think. So when it comes to things like marijuana and liquor, that's the stuff that'll get me. Luckily, I'm not into the party scene. You know what I mean? I'm a musician, I'm a frontman in the band. I know the party scene, but what I mean is I'm not all excited about, oh, let's go do some Molly and lines of Coke and woohoo. It's like, so I'm lucky in that regard, is that's not a crutch that I like. But when it comes to things such as, again, smoking weed, and since when I was like 12 years old, right? That's when I when I got into that, and that was a bit of a problem, right? In the sense that you can get a little bit lost in terms of your energy usage. You don't realize that, and I don't like to put things out there such as, they say it takes away your motivation. It's not that it takes away your motivation. It's just that you don't have as much energy as if you weren't doing that. Okay, marijuana is not as bad as certain other things in terms of danger and so on and so forth. But again, if it starts to derail other aspects of your life, there are things that I like to do that make me happy. Let's say I want to do the music and I want to do my business thing and so on and so on and so forth. It requires like 16-hour work days and those kinds of things. But if you're just gonna chill with some scotch and weed and you're having fun and you're thinking, you're contemplating, you're doing but you don't have enough energy to take care of those other things that you need to take care of. So for me, especially at being that young, I think that was a bad thing. It was something I had to shake up, a crutch that I had to kind of deal with, and I replaced it with meditation, if you will, right? Because you mentioned before that's kind of why, because meditation is kind of a substitute for that. In other words, getting in there and understanding your feelings. Because marijuana, as many people know, they say it makes you paranoid. but really just heightens up your whatever's going on in you, right? It just makes you focus on it, including things in your memory. You start thinking back at, oh crap, why did I do that thing back then? Or why, I'm such a loser, or whatever the hell it is, right?
Yeah.
So meditation has that same thing of kind of awakening your awareness. So you want to become aware, you can either use a crutch or you can substitute. So yes, I know that I have that personality that sees all these different things as crutches. I want to overlean on them and so on and so forth, but I had to learn to overcome those.
Exactly. Okay, so the reason I asked that question is because like in this channel we got many supporters who had overcame a addiction or who is currently in an addiction. You get what I'm saying? And like it's
Hmm.
the trials and tribulation of being comfortable, being uncomfortable on trying to get out of that.
Mm.
So I'm actually, I experienced it. I've been through all that. That's why I'm saying I don't drink. I eat healthy. Ain't been eating meat in like weeks right now. And all about healthy and meditation because that helps a lot. Because like you said, you work. Sometimes you want to do something that takes 16-hour work days, right? My body's different from everybody's body is unique, but I feel as though in order for me to do something similar to that or more, I have to take care of my body, my flesh. I have to do, sacrifice to do that. You kind of get what I'm saying?
100%. Like, look, when it comes to that thing, right, you got to start with the body, which is number one, hydration, right? That's something I'm always preaching that, right? Always, always, always got to be hydrated. We say we're starting with the body. And what is the body? The body is about, we know the percentage, over 70% water, right? You are water. And you can't hide in this fake spiritual plane or mental plane where it's like, oh no, it's my mind. It's like, shut up. Okay, you're a body, right? That's what you are. That's what I see. That's what you can touch. That's what gets affected, so on and so forth. So you got to start at that base plane of, am I hydrated? And a lot of we know some of the statistics about hydration in the with people, especially kids, and especially in the Western world. Most people are dehydrated most of the time, and I mean water, not apple juice, because apple juice is going to dehydrate you. Not Coca Cola. All everything else other than water is actually dehydrating you. People don't seem to want to understand this, but if I just put a little point in it, why will apple juice dehydrate you? Well, it takes water to digest sugar, right? So whatever water you got in your system, if you put in anything else, like the sugars and the apple juice and all these other things, it takes the water out of your system to digest those things. And I think it's about a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 by volume ratio in terms of, let's just say you need 4 units of water to digest 1 unit of sugar. So you're just sucking the water out of your system. And then secondly, there are things such as like that have caffeine in it, like Coca-Cola or coffee or so on and so forth. Those things just draw the water out of your system and you pee them out like alcohol, right? That's why you go pee when you're drinking beers, right? So the water aspect is key for your mood, your productivity, your energy, all kinds of things, right? So you start there, your basic water, and then your diet, your exercise, and your sleep. All these things are necessary for you to make good decisions, and these things may be difficult to hop into the wheel of getting into a new habit, but you gotta be able to take for example, I have this thing I say where you're like the CEO of your body, right? You're the CEO, which is the conscious mind, I mean, right? It's only like 1% of you. The 99% is all unconscious, right? What I mean by that, I mean what's beating your heart right now, what's regulating your blood pH, what's actually interpreting the language that I'm speaking to you right now. It interprets it, all that stuff. The stuff that's running images in your head right now and maybe have some words in your head. Everything, the homeostasis, regulating your blood temperature, or your body temperature, all that stuff is unconscious. So, but the part that this thin part, of consciousness that we have, all that it needs to do in order to get new habits or to get on the wheel is to pay attention to certain things. In other words, let's say you want to lose weight, just start weighing yourself. Don't worry, don't be scared, right? Because people get overwhelmed. They think, I'm going to need to get into this new habit of eating right, drinking right, exercising, so on and so forth. And it's like, well, the body, the company, right, which you're the CEO of, that 99% of that automatic stuff, Don't worry, trust it. It's got it. All the CEO needs to do is say, okay, there's a program now whereby every time I wake up, I'm going to look at the scale. Every time I wake up, I'm going to look at my credit score. Every time I wake up, I'm going to look at that budget sheet that I have. Whatever it is you want to improve, just look at it. And you'll be surprised because it's going to kick in a mechanism of rewards where the body wants that number in the scale to go down. So it's gonna do things to reward you when he sees that number go down, and you're gonna like now in your head you're gonna be like when you see that cake, you're gonna remember the scale. It is gonna remember the scale for you. It's gonna give you some kind of signals. We know about the dopamine and stuff like that. It's gonna start that cycle of like gives you dopamine to push you in the right direction to move the scale down, number in the scale down, and it'll give you bad vibes whenever you're doing anything that's gonna make that scale go up. And all you had to do was pay attention to that number. You also mentioned something about comfortable and being uncomfortable stuff. That side is a meditation, mastery of subjective consciousness thing. And we can get in more into that if you would like.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
I don't know. It's an interesting. Okay, so where to start, right? So basically, you have feelings in your body, right? You have images in your head, and you have talk in your head. That is about everything that you ever have in terms of you experiencing the world. Your perception, your waking consciousness at any point in time is made up of these three things, right? There is no other thing. It's whether you are, you're walking down the street and you're sad. You're walking down the street and you're happy. You're driving your car and you're angry. You're sleeping and you're whatever it may be. What's going on with you right now? It's feelings in the body. Okay. Then there's talk in the head, image and talk in the head. Those are the things that move us, that drive us, that's how we experience the world. Like think of it as a video game or like a spaceship. That's your dashboard. Those are the three things. Okay. Now, those things will drive you to do crazy things. Those things will make you uncomfortable if you don't just know how to observe them. How do you become comfortable, in other words? Because you mentioned comfort in being uncomfortable. What will make you uncomfortable? The feeling in the body, right? You got butterflies in the stomach, heart rate starts going up, right? Let's say it's anger, right? Heat in the back of your neck, in the back of your ear, right? Those things, if you don't know how to observe them, will make you uncomfortable. But if you were detached, like you just saw it like a gauge on a dashboard, heat rising, heart rate going up, like, okay, cool. Well, I see that. Okay, it may mean that I'm anxious, right? But it doesn't mean that I have to freak out, right? Because those things are just that. Temperature rising is not going to kill you. It doesn't mean you should slap somebody across the face. Words going in your head about, oh, how dare he disrespect me? How dare somebody say that? Blah, 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 blah. You just stop back and look at it. And meditation is the way that you can stop and look at it. In other words, you have these things in your body, feelings. You have images in your head, and you have talk in your head. That is all you ever have forever. These are the things that will make you happy, sad, elated, make you do things. It's that whole unconscious part of you. The thin 1% part of you, you need to develop into an observer that watches this weather pattern. Like, in other words, the feelings in the body are never going to go away. In other words, like it's never going to change. Some days, the heart rate is going to go up. Stage fright is going to happen. Those symptoms, it's going to be, unless you're dead. You want to die? No, you don't want to die. Those things are going to be there. The instruments on the dashboard is always going to be doing its thing. So you either get down and become the captain of the ship that looks at those instruments and not freak out about them, or you continue to just be in your feelings, in your head, and you can't even see it. So to meditate is the ability to observe those things, right? I don't know if you had any thoughts about that so far.
The way you broke it down, that's why I like listening to your podcast, because you're an engineer of yourself, right? You're an engineer. So you pay attention to the detail of the aspects of how to even get those gears turning. Like when you said get on the scale, you just look at weight and how it releases dopamine to make you want to bring that number down, and what you just talked about just now. So I don't know why, but is it because you're an engineer or something to like the way you explain it so well like that? Or like you just start doing from your experiences with the meditation?
Hmm. That is interesting. Now, it is a question of I have a preference for how I like to look at things, right? Some people like to talk about being one with the universe and your chakras aligning with the this and the that and the other. Those things don't move me. I find them to be poetic. I'm a songwriter myself, right? I can wax poetic too, right? Actually, not really. Well, it's just gonna sound different. Like, but the thing is, I'm saying it's a preference. Okay, what I
Right.
understand though is that my particular preference is more suited, if I could say it myself, to our modern Western materialist point of view. In other words, we we don't. This is how everything else is described to us, right? This is how you get an instructions manual for your iPhone. It doesn't tell you to align the iPhone with the universe, and doesn't tell you to just breathe and those kinds of things. It's more like plug it in this way, take it up 5 notches, right? We are living in a very technological society, and there's some kind of technological language which I like to use, language about, some people call it quantitative and very systematic and logical. So you can say everything that I said in a different way, in all that aligning your being with the center and your core, and but it can't, I can't tell you where to push. So, but in this other way, which breaks it down further and says you have feelings in the body, you have image in your head, and you have talk in your head. These three things combine to form your experience at any time. They're like a dashboard, and you want to be able to observe it. Then you can be like, okay, cool. Well, how do I observe it? Then I can say, okay, cool. You want to be able to observe the feelings in your body? Take a deep breath. Most of the feelings in your body that we call feelings are in your torso area, right? You don't get angry in your toe, right? You kind of get angry over here, chest, stomach, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So my way is more able to tell you what buttons to push, what levers, and so on and so forth. And yes, perhaps you say it's because I'm an engineer, but it's more like the reverse. I'm an engineer because I like to think that way.
Oh, okay. Dang, that's nice. That's a nice way to break it down like that. So just being the attention, that's what you're saying. Like looking at the gauges. You're not gonna have anger in your toe. It's mostly gonna be in the back of your neck and chest area, right? So you're saying to be aware of that and don't freak out. And that's gonna help strengthen the 1% thing that you got control of, or that you assume that you got control of, consciousness.
100%. You see, we know that when we have, and you can call it control, right? It's more of a, yes, that thing that you have control of. Let's use that word. And when you are able to observe and you can stand back, right? Number one, there are actual some practical benefits. Forget about behavior, but stress hormones, right, go down. Okay, heart rate goes down. Okay, all these other things which will kill you, right, are less likely to happen. So that's just one thing. It's like you haven't even done anything yet. The difference is when you notice that anger is happening, it is less likely to consume you and accelerate. And that consumption and acceleration has negative health effects, right? Simple. And then there's the obvious behavioral aspect, right? If you pay attention to it, you now have space for freedom and agency. We like to have free will, right? Free will may or may not exist, but it is more, there's more free will when you're able to look and choose, what should I do about the heart rate, the heat in the back of the neck, that voice going on in my head right now, versus having that voice push you to do something and smack someone in the parking lot and yell at somebody over the freeway. And so it's like there's these two layers. Number one, you're gritting your teeth, gripping the steering wheel, causing tension in your body, stress hormones are being released, and you're dying. It kills people. You get cancer 20 years from now. Everyone's wondering how you got the cancer. Well, that's how you got the cancer. The other level is we all want to be able to have space to make decisions. And if you don't create that observer that looks at the dashboard, in this case, we're talking about the anger in your torso, right? And says, what do I do about it? Then you're less free, you're less capable, you have less agency, you're going to make more mistakes, and it compounds upon itself. Now you're more angry. You have more reasons to be angry in the future because you've made more mistakes, you have more excuses, and it just goes on and on and on and on.
Like a big snowball. So what you're trying, what from what you said, is it like, I don't know what's the right words, but like being in your head too much, like you're living, you're being reactive to life. You letting whatever that comes across you, you react to it. But if you just look at the gauges, it creates that like gap, that space where you could just like you're an architect or something. Like you could just be like, I see this is happening, and I choose not to react off that. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, what you're trying to be is you're trying to be in the zone. Okay. So, because I've said it and then you repeated it and I said it again. So I think we kind of get where we're at right now. Yes, you're correct. We're in that place where we don't want to be reactive. We're in that place where we want to separate. It's almost like you're doing a cheat code. Okay. Because that part of you, not to get too complex, but that part of you which is watching and also the part of you which is feeling and all that, it's still all you. But there's a little cheat code you can do where you can kind of peel off a little bit and watch you. So it's like you are watching you, right? That's what you want. Now, if you've ever been in the zone before, maybe you're playing basketball and it's just all net and you're doing free throws, all net, all net. It's almost like you don't really know what you're doing. Obviously, because you've practiced, 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 but it's almost like you're watching yourself. It's almost like there's a flow to it. They call it flow state as well, right? And it's a combination of relaxation and concentration. Concentration and relaxation go hand in hand. So now I'm getting more into the methodology now. This is a bridge into the methodology. You're in this place where you're really closely watching the gauges and you're chill. Your heart rate is going crazy, right? But there is a part of you that is chill and watching the gauges. Okay. The question now is, how do I develop the ability to be chill and watch the gauges? And that is called relaxation and concentration. And that is why meditation, just like if it's like any other kind of practice, okay? And as we already kind of mentioned, my way is the practical way. Uh, Hence, it's like saying, how do I develop my biceps? I said, well, there are these formal exercises. You pick up the dumbbell, you do it like this, you do it like that. Yeah, you got to add the tricep too. There are these things you do. Formally just means, there's a form to it. It's like you're not actually picking up couches and doing anything. It's formal. You stand there's like the kata, I believe in karate. You're just doing like formal type stuff. So there is a formal way in terms of exercises to develop the ability to be relaxed and to concentrate. You don't have to make sacrifices to Apollo up on the mountaintop somewhere or pray to it's not, or, be one with all these kinds of weird things that people like to say. It's like, oh, it's not singing Kumbaya with bead wearing snow bunnies in the beach somewhere. That's not what does it. Okay. It's formal practice of this concentration and relaxation, which we've already seen will be the thing that is required for you to step back and watch the gauges.
And I want to piggyback off of what you said about the flow state because I got a book I read by me, how Cheek sent me mine, and it's called Flow. And it's like I play sports too, so it's like you seen yourself in the zone, but it's like I'm not gonna say like you feel as though that your body is the machine, but it's hard to put words to explain it, but it's like a little layer for you to like see what you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
100%. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get close to the flow, try to approximate the flow state as off. Just we want to be able to turn on the flow state, right, when we can. Maybe the flow state is not just a 0 or 1 on or off, right? Maybe it's a from 0 to 10. Okay. And we know what 10 is. 10 is when you're completely in the zone and you're just watching yourself dribble and you're like, oh, damn. Right. But we want to be able to turn up the notch, from 0 to like 5. Maybe we get to 6, but willingly by ourselves. Not just it magically happened as a result of a number of things falling in place and I have practiced and all these other kinds of things. So we want to be able to just stop, do certain exercises, breathe, feel the body, notice parts of the body, and then starts to dial that relaxation and concentration up. So these are two very key aspects of what meditation does for you. So again, it is a capacity that we're developing, just like the capacity to jump, a capacity to run. It is not magic, okay? We know that whether you're a sniper or a free thrower or you're a mathematician, concentration is concentration, right? It is this capacity called concentration. And we know, even if we've never looked at any formal ways of developing it, we just kind of know there's got to be a way of making that better, right? Making it easier, being able to turn it on, right? And then there's this kind of relaxation, which I'm talking about, which is being able to to back up, to calm down. That is also a capacity that you could actually make better too. And both of them go hand in hand. The zone is maximum concentration and also maximum relaxation. Because when you're doing those free throws, you're not agitated. You're very relaxed, right? When that sniper is about to take that shot and he's in the zone, he's not agitated. His muscles are very relaxed. The only things that need to be moved are the things that are moving. The trigger, that kind of stuff. So again, there are formal practices that you can inculcate in your routine that you can use. And we call them meditative exercises, where you're like formally, hey, either you're using your ears as a way of practicing concentration and relaxation, using your breathing as a way of practicing concentration and relaxation, watching your thoughts as a way of practicing concentration. And it's just like any other kind of exercise. You're moving against resistance, right? So you're like, okay, I got to sit here and I got to listen to this gong, play. And I got to focus on that thing, right? While it plays, and I got to focus on my breathing, right? And it's hard to do. That's the resistance, right? It's hard to do it because feelings in the body, image in your head, and talk in your head are pushing against you, right? So you're playing against feelings in the body, image in the head, and talk in the head. And you're bringing in this skill called concentration, and that's the battle. Just like in the gym, you're using your biceps and you're playing against gravity and that weight, right? That's your opposition. That's the fight. You're trying to dominate the weight using the muscle. And the muscle gets bigger, the more it dominates the weight. Hence, your concentration, or likewise, I should say, your concentration and your relaxation gets stronger the more it battles against feelings, image, and talk.
That's powerful. That's deep right there. Balance. That you just said it perfectly right there. For real, because it's like the concentration and being able to just be focused and like take moment to like get yourself set to do like a flow, to turn on, like how you say, 5 or 6 notches. That is, it's hard to even think about one thing for like 15 seconds straight or 30 seconds straight. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
just like people in the chat, if you just be like, if you say your name and you just think about it and just say your name and just in your head, try to hold that thought without having other thoughts coming in. And it'd be so powerful that other thoughts come in and you're not aware of it because you're just, you know what I'm saying, you're all scrambled. So what he's saying is that just get that layer peeled back to just see your thoughts coming in and all that. And that is very tricky, but it's powerful though.
Yeah, on that particular level, as a matter of fact, there's a particular exercise that comes to mind when you say that. And it is the exercise where you pick the alphabet, let's say, okay? And you say, I'm going to create a blank space in my mind. It's never really blank. But then I'm going to imagine some kind of white or blackboard, okay? And then I'm going to write A. I'm going to hold A there. And then I'm going to add B. I'm going to hold it there. I'm gonna add C, and see how far you can go. See if you can hold in your mind's eye all the way to Z. Okay.
Let's be real. That remind me of that show called Queen's Gambit, where that girl been thinking the whole chessboard up in the ceiling. Is that similar? Whew.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people do that kind of mental chess thing where they're playing chess with someone else, but it's all in their head. So, point is, you can get to that point, okay, or you can get better. In other words, not everybody is Usain Bolt. In other words, there's natural gifts. Not everybody is who's LeBron James. But if you start running tomorrow, you're gonna get better at running, right? You're not going to be Usain Bolt, but you don't need to be Usain Bolt, right? You just want to be the best
Yeah.
runner you can be, right? So, in the same way, we all know that it's got to be the case that if I do that A, B, C, maybe today I'm only able to go to D and then I can't hold it anymore. But we know how life works, right? We know that if you keep doing that, you're going to get better and better and better and better and better. That is concentration that you're building up. What are you doing? You're battling against image and talk in your head, plus feelings that come up in your body. Hence, the same image, feeling, and talk that's going to cause you to be angry and get road rage in the car. When that comes, it's the same concentration that you're going to use to watch it, the same way you watch ABC against these other things. And it doesn't make you act. You're going to get more comfortable being uncomfortable. What's making you uncomfortable? It's all this, the wash of the weather of A, B, C. But you're just the weatherman. You're just watching the weather. That's what it's about, really. And not so much about, a lot of people want to make it a character question. Are you a good person? Are you a centered person? It's like, it's too much burden on us. It's a skill question. It's, hey, you're at this level right now. Start running tomorrow. People are a lot better. Imagine if it's like, oh, well, you can't run. You must be a bad person. It's like, it's like, no, it's like, well, if you want to be a better runner, this is how you do it. And then you could choose to do it or not, but it's a lot more chill of an approach than to make it seem like it's about these virtues. Like this is a virtuous person because they can do. It's like, well, it's just a practice. It's a skill that you can develop. The more do you develop it, it applies to everything. These are like fundamental skills. I was like that relaxation. Relaxation is relaxation regardless of what you're doing. And also concentration is concentration regardless of what you're doing. So whether you're paying attention to A, B, or C, or you're paying attention to your feelings, causing you not to do something stupid. Many, many situations you could be you're doing a business deal. You're trying to work all night, right? You're trying to, and your body is telling you all kinds of things. It's the same kind of CEO that you need to strengthen to be able to say, okay, I get it. The body is fighting me right now, but I fought the body before. Like these weights are fighting me right now, but I fought these weights before, right? So same thing.
And that is, would you want to say, I got one more question on that. Is that like a very important factor of a person in order to become self sufficient?
So let me sound like Jordan Peterson right now. Life is very hard.
Oh, snap. Oh, man. Yeah.
Life is hard, okay? And not in some kind of wimpy simp way am I saying that. I'm saying that if you want to do anything, you mentioned self-sufficient, self-sustaining, you're pursuing a goal, you're trying to be better at something, it's going to be rough. And what is going to be fighting against you the most is yourself, right? And how does yourself manifest itself? We already broke it down before. Okay, we got the first part of the lesson in the Ike program of mastery of self is know that you are feelings, image in your head, and talk in your head. That's it. You can go think about it and find out if there's any other thing that in your user interface. No, that's it. That's it. So that's the thing that's gonna fight you. So whether it's anxiety or you're feeling like, am I enough? Am I good enough at this? how is that going to manifest itself? It's going to be voices in your head saying, ah, this meeting, yeah, you're driving there, you're trying to, is this going to work out? Are you good enough? Are you going to be able to make that deal? Blah, 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 so on and so forth. Well, look, you slipped and you failed again. The particular thing you said you were going to do didn't work out. It's going to be images and talk in the head. You're going to have feelings in the body as well. That is your contender. That is the thing you have to master, right? So, and also it helps you too, because we already talked about the CEO and how if you look at the scale, and that thing too can then give you can use those things for your benefit. In other words, they can be good habits or bad habits, right? But you, the CEO, have to be the one that directs that. But anyways, to come a little bit more down to earth about your question, yes, 100%. In order to do anything in a kind of a sustained way, consistent way, you are the person that you are going to be fighting with 90% of the time. It's not out there in the world. Shout out to O'Shea Duke Jackson. It's not the white man holding you back or whatever, right? It's your body, your mind, and that's the battle. Okay, I'm gonna be out here after this interview. I'm gonna be sitting over there in that chair. I got some work to do. Okay, it's me and myself. I'm gonna be battling that battle all night. Hence, I need to have weapons. What are the weapons? My concentration, my relaxation. The third one is called sensory clarity. But sensory clarity comes from concentration. Basically, what is that? Sensory clarity says rather than anger, because we've been using anger, so let's just stick with that. But the same thing could be said for any other combination of feeling, image, and talk. Sensory clarity says rather than anger, right? Sensory clarity is able to break it down to say a certain amount of temperature change in the ear, a certain amount of voice in the head, because there's different kinds of anger. There's the anger where it's just, I don't know, you're seeing red. It's the anger where, you're actually shaking, right? There's anger where it's, in other words, it's just a different you're breaking down image in your head, talk in your head, and the feelings in your body. Where is it concentrated? Is it more in the stomach? Is it more in the chest? Is it more of anger that results from a sense of pride being hurt? That one tends to create a sinking sensation in the stomach, right? Rather than say, oh, I'm just angry, you're like, okay, sinking sensation in the stomach, bah, bah, bah. Rather than saying, oh, I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed, you're like, okay, there was a general numbness that I feel. I don't really feel my body that much, okay? And there's a song playing in my head. My head is very busy right now. It's this kind of loop, just kind of. So rather than use these vague words such as waking up on the wrong side of the bed, or I just don't feel good, or I'm angry, sensory clarity is now you're breaking down the dashboard more into more individual parts, right? And when you have that, you're more able to separate. The more you define these things, the more you are now the CEO. Because the captain, the more gauges you have, the more control you have. That's kind of how it is.
Yeah. All I gotta say is powerful right there. You broke it down perfectly right there. And that I'm glad. I know we took a good minute on that, but that was very well needed right there, because that's like the first lesson by you for self mastery right there. So, all right, since you done broke that down, man, I got a question. I got another question for you. Okay, so why is it that people like struggle at finding like a purpose or finding like a path, a direction they want to take? You get what I'm saying? Like, so my generation, they want to do 1,000 things, but don't want to take time to do one thing.
I see. I have recently, there are many different kinds of, well, not many, but there are different kinds of problems in this space that you're talking about. This problem of finding a path, knowing what you want, having a purpose that you're really strongly wedded to. There are different kinds of problems, and they vary with the different personalities. I'm recently learning that there are some of us, and what I recently learned is this: people need to have tasted, some people need to have tasted some different paths, Either they see it when they're growing up, they look at this person, they look at that person, they look at the third person. Um, and then they begin to mimic that and kind of test it out and see, well, is who's my hero, if you will? Do I want to be, in other words, we have this strong capacity for mimicry, for copying. It's what we do fundamentally, right? It is the religious impulse, if you will. What would Jesus do? Jesus is my hero, or the Buddha, or whatever it is, that thing that we look up to, maybe General Patton, whatever. It is our religious impulse. It is a moral impulse to want to copy something higher than you. So people need examples of this, either through religious exposure, mythological exposure, I don't know, watching Star Wars and wanting to be Han Solo, whatever it may be, but also trying things too. Like, oh, I tried this particular kind of thing, or I watched this particular guy watch this guy do something like this when I was a kid, and I think I don't really like that one. I may like this more. In other words, we need to sample, or some people, again, need to sample. I would say most people, okay, need to sample. And then you have other people who sample in their head, right? And if you're that type of person, you know who you are, right? I am on this other category, which is the sampling in my head category. So I can look in there. If you, all I need is like, okay, you give me one type of person in this extreme and another type of person in this extreme. I can fill in all the gaps in between, like all the different combinations. I would like seeing people like us seem to have more of a healthy imagination, tend to be more of a creative type, open-minded type, that type of person. So if you're that type, then you need to do the sampling in your head, figure out exactly it is who you are. If you're the other type, you actually need to sample. Perhaps you could say these people need more formal religion, if you will. And I'm using religion in a way which I described, okay? So either if you're religious or anti-religious, don't come for me, okay? I'm talking about the religious impulse, the mimicry. We need to copy, okay? We need to copy. Even me, the me type, I'm trying to copy images in my head that I've created, right? But some people need to see examples or hear about examples and so on and so forth. And if they have that, then they can be like, okay, I know what I don't like, okay? And therefore, this is the one thing I'm going to do. And then what is it required? What are the virtues required? What are the skills required in order to get there? Because I know what you mean. A lot of people, a lot of times, they hop on this train and then it's like halfway or three-quarter way to the destination. They're like, oh, crap, I don't like this. Let's hop on that other train. Oh, let's hop on the multi-level marketing train. Oh, let's hop on. It's like what I think is going on there is they did not early on in their life get the chance to sample different things and figure out what exactly it is they are about.
Exactly. That the sampling, and what I believe you mean by sample is like I ain't gonna lie, we tend to do the same things over and over from day. Watch the same stuff, think about the same things and everything. But sample is just using your time to spend on sampling with doing something different. Am I correct?
Yes, yes. So if you are always worshiping in the Black Baptist church, go to a Korean church one day. Go to a different community, have different groups of friends. What do they live like? It's not like you don't have to be some anthropologist going in there and actively doing that, right? And this has to be done at a younger age too, right? When you're older, there's a different solution for you, okay? But generally speaking, as if you're a younger person, even it's not too late, even if you're in your teenage years approaching, let's say your early 20s, you want to look at people outside of whatever in group you're in and just one or two examples of that type of friend, one or two examples of that kind of organization. Maybe you are in the trades and you only hang out with electricians. Maybe you want to go see, we want to join the group in the association of engineers and so on and so forth, because those two they tend to come together, and then you're like, let me see if I can get one engineer friend. What are those guys about? You are in college and you always hang out with your group of business students, go to the engineering building, go to the art building, or go to the art mixer or something. Like, what do these people do? What are they about? What are writers about? That kind of thing. And the more you do that, the more you'll be able to then see, okay, I see, I really do like this. Because how do you know, right, that you like Kendrick Lamar if you have never, if that's all you've ever heard? It's like that's the only music you've heard. It's like, how do you know you don't like jazz if you really haven't listened to jazz and all the different kinds of jazz, right? So you need to go and do this kind of sampling. Kendrick Lamar, a little bit of Tupac, a little bit of Nas, a little bit of this. It's like, okay, cool, I see. Okay, this is, I like this kind of, I like this from this guy, this from this guy, this from this guy. Otherwise, if you're only ever listening to Kendrick Lamar, you just hop on the Kendrick Lamar train and you just go down 3/4 way down the track. You see the Nas train, you're like, oh crap, I'm a Nas guy. And now it's like you're confused and you're wasting time. Time is limited, right?
That's the best way to do. Like, you broke it down once again, perfecto, perfect. So, um, dang, these be deep. I really appreciate you for doing that. These be some deep topics right here that's helping me out, and many people who are watching this right here supporting also.
No
So,
problem.
another question I have for you though, dang, it's like you feel like you answer all of it. Um, do you feel free to answer some of the questions from the people in the chat though, if they want to hop on the panel?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Okay, we could do that.
And we can also get into, yeah, we can get into practical productivity thing because
Yeah.
so far we've been, yeah, open up the panel, and while you're doing that, there is a question of why should I be productive? Because so far we've been talking about that mastery of self, knowing how to create that observer. Also, last thing that we mentioned is, how do you know what you're going to pursue? So in that, then when you're now pursuing something, how do you be, why should you become the best at it or the best you can be, right? Will be another kind of thread to follow up on. And there are internal reasons and external reasons why. The external reasons are simple. Problems need to be solved, right? In this world, we're not, this world is not devoid of problems. We don't have a shortage of problems, right? Your family doesn't have a shortage of problems. Okay. Your life doesn't have a shortage of problems. Hence, you need, and the money is let's just call it money, because money is that thing which we can use to do all kinds of things, right? So, and money is that thing which will come when you are mastering something, right? So, why should you get this money? In other words, why should you master this particular skill, which you've now decided after sampling Kendrick Lamar and jazz and this and that? And you're like, you know what? I'm a Nas guy and I'm going to do Nas stuff. Why should I perfect my Nasness? It's because you have problems. Okay. And what people tend to do is they have these blinders in their eyes and they're like, okay, I'm good because I'm in this one room right now and I can eat and I can transport myself, so I'm good. But what is that? If we look at it externally, how about what if your sister gets into an accident tomorrow? Will you be able to help her? How about your mom, right? If she has an issue with this, will you be able to do that, right? If your society needs you, in other words, because regardless of how individualistic and selfish we may be, you can't avoid the fact that we're part of a group called the human race or whatever. And I'm just talking about the closest people in your group. Let's say family, right? You can block your eyes to the problems of your family and stay in your one little room and be fine, right? Or you can actually open your eyes and be like, okay, there are problems out there in the family. Actually, there are problems with my one room. It's not really sustainable. I don't think I can actually retire and be comfortable. How much money will I actually need? There's inflation going on. My money is getting eaten away by inflation. Blah, 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 blah. If you open your eyes to the real problems in the world, then you'll be able to know why you should be mastering something so that you can get the means to solve problems. But then there's the internal reasons. And I tend to be an internal kind of guy, right? That's kind of where I find my motivations. The internal motivation is manifold. One is life is a use it or lose it thing. If you don't stress your muscles, what happens? It dies, right? In other words, if you don't work those muscles and push them, they die. If you don't work your skills, they die. If you don't work your brain cells, you don't work your immune system, don't expose it to hazard, to danger, to problem solving, right? It dies. So the whole thing of, well, why can't I just chill in my one room and stay put? Because the universe doesn't work that way. You may wish, but when you stay put, you're actually going backwards. It doesn't matter. Where, in this money world, which I talked about, inflation is what's taking you backwards. In the level of skills and so on and so forth, technological increase, things are changing, people are getting better. That's what's taking you backwards. In terms of your physical health, you can't just lay in the couch all day, right? You actually die. So this is not a rule that I made up. This is how the universe works. This is how all life works. It needs to be challenged. It needs to work. It needs to improve. It needs to strive. It needs to go out there and get beaten up. Otherwise, it dies. So that's the number one aspect of the internal side. So I mentioned some external things. And then number one aspect of the internal side is the fact that life is a use it or lose it proposition. And then versatility is another thing that basically, if you want to last long, which we want to last, right? Then we need to have a number of different ways of doing things, a number of different skills. You can't just be a one trick pony because the world will happen, pass you by. Coronavirus will happen and you lose that particular skill. The homeboy over there, let's say you guys are both electricians, right? And there is there's you're working in a electrician company, you're doing commercial electricity work, and you have a friend working in the same company, but he does residential electrician work in the weekends. And you're like, I'm good, right? I'm good. Just why I don't know why this guy does this stuff. He has this employees that he has, and he has this extra truck. And every weekend I see him 5 a.m. He gets in his car and is driving. I'm chill. I just chill in my backyard. I grill. I drink beer. We both have jobs. Coronavirus hits. Commercial electrician work goes down. Why? People are not going to offices anymore. Go know what goes up? Residential electrician work, because people are buying all kinds of stuff for their homes. People are home now. They need to get new solar panels. They're rewiring their homes for whatever it may be. This is actual truth. This actually happened, right? This just happened. So now your homeboy, so hours get cut in your work. Maybe people get laid off, okay, in the commercial landscape. But this guy that you were thinking, why is he doing that? He now is balling more than he has ever balled before. His business is growing because he had a stool that had more than 3 legs. So that whole thing of I got 3 legs on my stool, I'm good. Guess what? One leg gets taken out, now you're done. This other guy that was struggling with his 4-legged stool, and you're like, why do you need 4 legs? We're good. Guess what? When one leg got taken out, boom, the other leg got it. Anyways, you get the point. So versatility, absolutely key, right? And also the need to use it or lose it, right? That's just part of life. You can't stay put. You're actually going backwards. And then externally, there are problems to solve. Don't act like, oh, everything's okay. It's like, no, you should perfect your skills and yourself because they're actual problems. The world is not short of problems.
That's facts on why you gotta be productive, you guys. Um, Wallace, how you doing?
Hey, I'm fine. Can you both hear me? Hey, can you
Loud and
both
clear.
hear me?
Yep.
It's great. You both are having a great conversation. I'm learning a lot. I think many of the audience can also share the same thought. I'm here from Brazil, and I think me and you, young Grump, we are like young folks, and Nike, we have more life experience, we have more business experience, and he's basically in a position that we can listen to what he say because he talks the talk and he walks the walk. So what I wanted to hear from him basically is if he have a practical advice to us, the young folks that are trying to find our way through life. This would be the question I would have to Ike.
that's you want me to give you big advice for finding your way through life. Well, you want me to be a cult leader now? Maybe I'll ask you to join my cult then. I'm starting a cult soon.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, let me continue with the with this line of reasoning which I was on, because I think that it is fundamental enough or big enough, which is the use it or lose it thing, right? That with everything that you need stresses in your life, and you need to become comfortable with the stresses. You know what I mean? That if things are all cool, right? Then there's something wrong. That's not what you're going for. You're not going for things to be all cool. A lot of people think that if if I don't feel comfortable with myself, if I have some doubt, if I have some difficulty pushing, then um, there's something, then I'm not whom I need to be. What you need to realize is that is where you want to be 100% of the time. Well, then you're like, well, that's not good. Where's the improvement? The improvement is you look back and compete with your former self. Because trust me, the problem, the thing that you're shaking with right now, is completely different from where you were 5 years ago. You may be right now, you just got some, you got your, you started a business, right? And you're like, this is hard. I'm trying to keep certain clients and it's rough. I don't know if I'm good at this stuff. I just made a particular mistake. There's all this stuff about tax accounting, blah, blah, blah. But 3 years ago, you didn't have a business, right? You were struggling with just trying to be a good employee. 5 years before that, you were struggling with trying to be a good student. A few years before that, you get the point. So it's like you always want to be at the edge struggling, right? Because that's how life works. That's how improvement works. And if you feel like, oh, well, when am I going to be able to breathe? You breathe by looking back and being like, hey, now I'm struggling with 5 employees. Maybe 5 years from now, after you started the business, now you're struggling with how you train employees, how you manage employees, and you're like, crap, this is hard. Things are shaky, so on and so. But you're like, well, 2 years ago, I was struggling with how to do taxes for my business. I don't have that problem anymore. Now I have employee problem. After employee problem, it's gonna be another problem. And another problem. The way I put it is, look, and here's the thing: it's all the same amount of effort. In other words, when you're an ant and you're crawling and you're trying to get over a toothpick, it's really hard. You grow older, and then you're like, now you're trying to jump over a bench. It's also hard. You grow bigger. Now you're trying to jump over fences. It's also hard. You're now massive, and now you're like, oh my God, now I see this mountain. You didn't even see the mountain before when you were the ant, right? You're just like, oh my God, you're toothpicks everywhere. That's the world, right? And now it's benches, and now it's fences, and now, oh crap, here's a mountain. But it's the same amount of effort to go over that toothpick when you were an ant as it is now that you're bigger to go over the mountain. But the point is, some people see you going over that mountain and like, damn, how is he going over the mountain? I can't even go over a toothpick. Well, he had to go over the toothpick and the bench and the fence and the building. And now he's doing mountain stuff, but it's the same thing. He just stayed on the discomfort the whole time, stayed with the stress the whole time. So I don't know. What do you have to say about that, Wallace? Is that the kind of, does that satisfy your question?
Yes, it's really good to listen to what you have spoken because I think for us, the young folks, the problem is that we can't see like a proper leadership. The only thing we can see is the media, the model that they want to sell us, and this become a problem. And this is why I think most of us somehow get addicted in the end because like to stay high is something that is closer to you. But to try to succeed, to try to reach success, is something that you have to believe. It's like fate. Because if, like, for example, when you are going to the university, you basically have to struggle for some years before you have your degree. So it's basically fate. But to get high is something you literally get it and you get the pleasure, you get those things. So it's like a shortcut. It's a short term action and when we can see someone speaking that have gone through the struggle, that have gone through the way, it's much easier for us because we can visualize that somehow it was worth it. So thanks for the knowledge that you both are sharing right now. It's been a great live stream.
Oh, well, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I like that you brought it back to the whole addiction thing, to the getting high thing, because, yes, that is the short term gratification. You want to push that dopamine, you want to get the dopamine kick in the quick way. Look, I'm not an absolutist in anything. And in other words, I'm not going to be the kind of guy that tells you, never do this, always do that. It's like, no. I'm like, if you have to use this crutch, and I'm not talking about certain bad crutches like, oh, if you need to drink in order to drown your sorrow away or something like that. Not really. But if you need to use a particular kind of a crutch in order to get past something, maybe like, you know what? Rather than go to the strip club, uh, I'm going to use the post nut clarity example, right? Like, before I go do something stupid, I'm gonna rub one out, right? If that's your crutch right now, go ahead, man. It's like, do that, but with the understanding that you're gonna need to go away from using a crutch into building the internal capacity to such that you don't need the crutch, right? But building crutch at a time, moving up towards the bigger goals. And I'll say one more thing about this kind of thing, and it has to do with bigger goals, in the sense that in order to be motivated, our goals need to be very big. People tend not to understand this. People think that they should make a small and comfortable goal, right? And what I mean by goal is I don't mean just kind of small objectives like what I got to do. I need to lose the weight this today. What I mean is whom you see yourself as being. Take infinite amount of time to get there, right? What is your vision of yourself? It needs to be massive in order to be motivated. Because I usually give the heaven and hell example, right? Which is, hell is like infinitely horrible, okay? Just to motivate us to not do bad stuff. Also, heaven is like infinite eternity of bliss and happiness and whatever you want to imagine, streets of gold, whatever it is, right? Just so you can do good. In other words, these motivations are, or shall I say, the rewards are so huge in order to get us to move in a particular direction. That is how the human beings work. So, because it is the same amount of work to make $100,000 a year as it is to make $100,000 a month. Let me say that again, because some people are like, oh, what do you mean? There's a scenario where you could work 16-hour days and do the blah, blah, and then you're like, oh, crap, good, I made $100,000 a year. The same thing. You're working 16-hour days and you're making $100,000 a month. The difference is because of that, then you might as well make the goal $100,000 a month because you're gonna be working anyways, right? And the $100,000 a month goal is way more, gives you way more juice, way more energy. It's a hack in the system. It's not because, oh, I'm so greedy and I want, it's because, again, if heaven was just a nice steak dinner one night, like, oh, you live all your life and you do that, and you get a nice steak dinner, you're like, nah, crap, F that. I want, you're like, I want it to be huge in order to give you motivation. And still, it's hard for people to do stuff. And I'm talking about people who believe in it. Some people believe in heaven, and it's still hard for them to be good, right? So you want that goal, like $100,000 a month. That's what I'm working towards. Because trust me, you only have 24 hours in a day. It's still work. It sucks no matter what, whether you're toiling at a low level or toiling at a high level. It's still work. And most of the work, again, is internal work. It's work that you're doing, fighting against feeling, image, and talk, the things that are pushing against you, the resistance, the procrastination, and so on and so forth.
You hear that, Wallace?
Yes, I have heard. Yes, it was great.
Yeah. So I'm about to say, like, I coming through with all this, like, this gems and intellectual property. This is going to help out people for life. Straight life. See, yeah, people in the chat. So Wallace, how did you came across Ike?
Sorry, I wasn't able to listen. The,
No,
the last thing you said.
I said, how did you came across Ike? This brother Ike over here. like his channel?
I found Ike a long time ago. He you know the channel of Kevin Samuels.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ike usually used to go there if I'm not wrong, and I usually to see him in the super chats. So basically, I tried to find a comment that he did, and then I saw his channel. It was really great, and every time I can, I go there see his live stream like I'm right now. This was the way that I have literally came across Ike, and it was really productive for me through a human way. I have learned a lot, and I think the same way you're having the conversation of you both right now, that you also are learning a lot of things, is also helping me, in a lot of ways, a lot of areas of my life. This is the way that I basically found Ike's channel, and he basically recommended the live stream that he was going to do with you today. And I came here. It was basically that.
Powerful right there. That's good. So this I'm glad that it's helping you and many others like become the best that you could possibly be. And like I'm glad I had broke down being aware of the gauges, you know. What was it again? The three things that you have? It was the
Your yeah, your
yeah.
your experience comes at you. Your subjective consciousness comes at you. Everything that you're gonna be, happy, sad, just woke up, just blank, whatever. It's feelings in your body, and then images in your head, and voices or noises in your head. If you're angry, it's going to be a combination of feelings in your body, image in your head, talking in your head, sad, in love, hungry, whatever it is, distraught, feel, image in the head, feeling. So that's the beginning, biggest chunks, right? And then you can always kind of separate, like, what am I feeling in my body? What is going on in my head, and what's right, the image and the talk. And then you're able to observe and then recreate this space where you now have some freedom and will, so that you're not just in your body, in your feelings, in your head, and just acting a fool, and also having those deleterious effects, the bad effects of the stress hormone and all those kinds of things. Because otherwise, people are just out there, clenching their jaw, gripping steering wheels, angry, shoulders all hurting and everything. Why do you think people have stress here in their shoulders, right? It's because of this feedback that we have where there's an image in your head and you tense up your shoulder. And if you don't know how to stop and again breathe to watch what's going on in your torso, that's why it helps do that. And then you're like, as you relax, again, you're developing concentration and relaxation, observation and relaxation. And with that, you begin the journey of mastering yourself. Again, what is yourself? Image, talk, and feeling.
As far as right there, image, talk, and feeling. I appreciate you. Like I know you're a busy man though. Do you have any other things that'll be very important for us though to like
And I
hear?
think that we said a lot, and sometimes, while it may be tempting to add more and more and more, sometimes it's just important to reiterate, kind of encapsulate, if you will, what we've said, which is that mastery of subjective consciousness, which we just started from, is the key to be able to do any particular thing, right? Because most of the fight is a fight with yourself, right? Especially in modern day Western liberal democracy, you're not fighting, the Nazis out there in your, at the door. No one is stopping you from. You're mainly free, okay? And the battle is the battle within. Then, secondly, sample things, okay? Most people need to do it. If you're another kind of person, you're sampling in your head. Either way, you got to sample, right? You got to go there. You got to meet different kinds of people, see different kinds of things, so that you know what you like. Because when what you like and when you have that why, then it can project you. And speaking of why should you then perfect what you've liked? It's because there are problems in the world. Externally, there are problems in the world. You need more money than you think you need. Your parents need more money than you. In other words, your ability to help to solve the human problems, if you're an extrinsically motivated person, that's there, right? But if you're a selfish bastard like me and you're like, yeah, okay, the world, I'll help the world, but I'm not motivated by helping the world, right? Then it's because I know that if I don't push, I'm going backwards. I didn't make the rule. I would prefer if I could just be pushing, if the universe pushed me forward. It's like, but no, if I just chill on my muscles, sit on my ass, it actually dies. If I just rest, if my immune system is actually not exposed, as we know, right, to attack, it dies. Everything about biology is such that it needs to be in chaos. It needs to be fighting. It needs to be stressed. So that part is also absolutely key. That's why you want to expand and grow. And then we kind of, because of Wallace's question, we talked about the fact that your goals need to be big too. So make the goals big because it's a hack, right? Because you only have like 24 hours in a day, anyways, and work is work. Don't believe me. The guy making $100,000 a month and the guy is working just as hard as the guy making $10,000 a month. It's not like this guy making $100,000 a month has found some way of doubling time. It's like no, he stayed at it though. He stayed at it from the $2,000 level to the $5,000, blah blah blah. And as we said, he stayed at that edge of always being uncomfortable. So that 5 years ago, he was trying to be a good employee. 3 years later, he's trying to start a new business and shaking over there. Now he's shaking because he's got some employees. 10 years from then, he's shaking because he's trying to merge with a new company. But he's always shaking, and that's how he keeps on growing.
Dang, that's powerful. That's exactly. Question from Nicer. What would you say to people who are paralyzed by fear?
Exposure, right? Exposure therapy. Basically meaning, let's say you're afraid of elevators, right? Go to a building with an elevator, and it's gradual exposure, right? You go to a building with an elevator, to the lobby with the elevator. You sit there, and I'm just using this elevator. It may be whatever it is. It may be spiders. It may be women. It may be a certain kind of work or something like that. You're like, afraid of succeeding. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of learning this new skill. Then just go to the channel where they teach this skill. Don't go in there yet. Just look at the channel and then see what happens with your feelings in your body, right? See what goes on in your head. Watch that. Master that. Okay? And then the next time you go there, go stand in front of the elevator or click one of the videos about like the training, or, open the form. Maybe it's an LLC form you got to start. Open the form, look at the elevator, watch what happens in your body. See what goes on in your head. That subjective consciousness thing. Because that's that's what the fear is, right? It's not, the fear is not a thunderbolt from Zeus, right? It is a feeling in your body. It is an image in your head and talk in your head. It's not It's not some kind of crazy mystical thing. You don't have to go back to exercise the spirit of your father. Those are other ways of putting it. Okay, you can get poetic with it too, but if you want to be practical, you're looking at the body and you're looking at the image. And so next time you push the button on the elevator, okay, you actually watch 5 minutes of that video. You actually start filling out that form, or you actually pick up the phone call the small business association or the college or whatever it may be, right? And then watch the feelings, watch what happens, okay? Next time, stick in your head in the elevator, right? So this is the point. You need to gradually, because don't just jump in. That's a mistake. It doesn't work that way, okay? Because you want to gradually start noticing how your body is pushing back against you. Like, you don't just go and start lifting up 200-pound dumbbells, right? That's crazy. You pick up a little bit, you're like, okay, and more and more and more, because this capacity which you're developing, which is the capacity to concentrate and relax in the perturbation, in the feeling, image, and talk, fear realm, right? You want to do it 5 pound, 7 pounds, 12 pounds, 15 pounds. That's how you go ahead and you do it.
That's good. Dang, I ain't see Nicer comment no more, but appreciate that for giving that to Nicer. What's up, Ramil? I appreciate Ramil stopping by here. He definitely He shows love to the brothers out here.
Nice.
Hmm. Hey,
Wallace,
can
go ahead.
yes, can I speak something really brief? About the exposure. Like, for example, I got into the panel right now, but I'm kind of anxious currently, because it's completely different when you are into the chat room, just typing, and when you are here speaking. And if myself, I can feel anxious, I can imagine you both are shaking, you know. I think Ike is more used to that, so for him it's more common. But even so, he's shaking internally. And you, young Grump, I think you had to be really humble to have this live stream because, for example, for Ike, we can see that he's basically what people call as a high value man. And when you literally try to do a live stream, you are exposed to all the type of things. You're exposed to be judged. You are exposed to be analyzed. Any type of thing you literally can do can be used against you somehow. And you had to be really humble to be here as a young man that literally accepts that maybe he doesn't know a lot about life and he's humble enough to seek for knowledge, because like we are the young folks here, we doesn't have the suits, we doesn't have the big houses, we doesn't have the good looking rooms. We are being humble right now. We accept we are somehow making mistakes and we are seeking for help, and this is something that also have to be appreciated, both the attention of Ike because he's also being humble to be here right now, because if he was somehow arrogant, he wouldn't be here because he wouldn't like to be associated with the ones who are struggling. So it's something really good to be able to see that you are a humble person looking for knowledge, looking for wisdom, and he's also someone who is really really good sharing that knowledge, sharing the wisdom he has. I think this is the key of exposure. It's about the message. If you really care for the message, the truth, you doesn't care who is basically going to communicate and who you're going to speak to because you care for the message. And I think right now you have learned a lot the same way I did, and we should be thankful for the whole thing that happened.
Greatly
One
appreciate
hundred
that.
percent. I
Thank.
mean, because let me wrap up real quick because I think my my time limit is up, and I would like to come back, um, you know, if if the time permits, to kind of continue the conversation or talk about something else. But I think that it is the job of the older generation. I'm not much older than you guys actually, but to help, um, to fight for even. And this is something that I think that has been forgotten in certain communities, where it's like the older generation is actually holding back the younger people sometimes, and that is insane. It's kind of crazy. It is wrong on many levels. It has to do that whole sampling thing that I talked about is also an exposure kind of thing too, right? And I think Wallace was kind of wrapping it all in there. It's like, well, if the people don't come out and like let's say myself come out and so for you to see and for you to say for me to say certain things because I say certain things now and some people are like, oh, I get it. He's out there just struggling just like me, right? It's like we're all struggling with feeling, image, and talk, and we're all battling ourselves. And the 16 hours is hard for him too. It's not, that kind of thing. It's like, then you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And I can be there too because I'm just a struggling human being. So 100% and more people should come out and more of the elders, if you will, should be in that mindset of helping and fighting for and removing obstacles for the generation behind, because to do otherwise is just it's horrible. It's ridiculously selfish in a strange way. I like to call myself a selfish bastard, but there's a strange kind of selfishness that some other people do, which I don't even understand, right? But yeah. So I'm definitely open to coming back, and we can continue this conversation whenever the time permits.
I thank you again, Ike, for spending your time over here. That greatly appreciate.
You are welcome. You're welcome.
All right, Wallace. I see you on the other side. We're gonna go ahead and close this live out, and I'm gonna go ahead and ask the people in the community or what we want to cover next, though. Until next time, though. I
All right. Later.